Tayammum and wudu with socks. Learning objectives. Assalamu alaikum, my friends. Welcome. Today we will talk about an important jurisprudential ruling during ablution and wiping over the socks. So let's get started. I recently took a walk with my father in open air because he had promised me that he would camp in the desert. I enjoyed that outing very much and learned several important things from it. When the time for prayer came, we discovered that our water had run out. To get more water, we would have to walk long distances, and the time for Asr prayer would be over. My father, that Islam has been kind to its followers and has permitted them to perform Tayammum. Tayammum means using dust for wudu instead of water, in the absence of water, of course, and this Tayammum is done in a specific way. Allah Almighty said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, cannot find water, then purify yourself with clean earth by wiping your faces and hands. Now, my friends, based on our understanding of the noble verse, who among you can tell us how Tayammum is performed? Well done, my good students. Tayammum is performed by wiping the face and hands. First, we hit our hands on the clean, dry dust. Then we shake them off. Then we wipe the face with them once. Then we hit our hands with the dust again and shake them off. Then we wipe our hands up to the elbows with them. Well done, my wonderful friends. Now, my beloved students, who among you can tell us why we don't constantly perform dry ablution with dust before prayer instead of performing ablution with water? That's right. Because the basic principle of purification is that it is done with water, and because Tayammum is invalid if water is accessible before the time for the prayer ends. However, if the time for prayer ends, we do not have to repeat ablution or perform the obligatory prayer that we prayed with Tayammum again. Likewise, Tayammum is invalidated by what invalidates ablution by the existence of something from one of the two ways, such as urine, lattice, or feces. Wonderful, my beloved students. And now, my dears, let me tell you what else I learned on the outdoor trip that was with my father. And now, my dears, let me tell you what else I learned on the outdoor trip that was with my father. After we performed Tayammum and prayed afternoon prayer in a group, one of my father's friends brought water after the Maghrib Adhan. I found that while my father was performing ablution for the Maghrib prayer, he was wiping over his socks. Socks, as you know, a thing made of leather that covers the foot up to the ankle. I also found that my father's friend was wiping over his socks instead of taking off his socks and slippers to wipe over his feet. So I asked my father about that, and he said to me, part of the ease and tolerance of Islam is that it allows its followers to wipe over socks and shoes instead of taking them off during ablution. This can only be done for one day and one night the person is resident of his country and is not traveling. As for the traveler who is moving outside his country, this can be done for 3 days and 2 nights. The Prophet, peace be upon him, that he had appointed 3 days and nights as the period when a traveler may do it, and 1 day and night as a period for one who is not traveling. It was also narrated about the Prophet, peace be upon him, he performed ablution, and then Mughirah ibn Shu'bah poured water on him. He washed his face and hands, wiped his head, then wiped his socks. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also permitted wiping over the socks. It was narrated that the Prophet, peace be upon him, performed ablution and wiped over his socks and his sandals. My father told me another about wiping over the socks, and that is that cold weather is not a requirement in order to be able to do it. It's also not necessary that a person is sick and cannot tolerate water, Wiping over socks doesn't need a reason in Islam. Rather, it is permissible if there are conditions including the slippers and socks must be pure with no impurity in them. The Muslim had wudu at the time that they wore the socks. They should cover the ankles. They are thick. Now, my hard-working friends, can you tell me how to wipe over the socks and shoes? Yes, well done. You're amazing. When the person before an oblation reaches his feet, he wets his fingers. With the right hand, he wipes the back of his right sock or shoes once. Then he wipes with his left hand and the surface of his left sock or shoes once. Well done, my friends. Now, who among you can conclude what invalidates wiping over socks and shoes? Well done, you are amazing. The acts that invalidate wiping over socks and shoes are removing the socks or shoes, the validity period expiring. With that, my dears, we have learned together that Islam permits tayammum and wiping over the socks and shoes. We also learned that tayammum is invalidated by the same things that invalidate oblation and that it is done using dirt. We also learned that tayammum is done in a specific way to wipe the face and hands. We also learned that wiping over the socks and shoes is only allowed if the shoes or socks are pure and Muslims must wear them while they have wudu. The shoes or socks should cover the ankles. The shoes or socks must be thick. We also learned that the period of wiping is 1 day and 1 night for the resident, 3 days and 2 nights for the traveler. We learned that wiping over the socks and shoes is validated if the wiping period has expired, or if the Muslim takes off one or both of them off his feet. Here, my beloved, we have finished today's lesson. See you another lesson, inshallah.